How did ECA, as we now know it, come about?
I was always into fitness, sport, everything, and I always felt like that was the path that I wanted to go down. And I seen other people kind of living that life, and I was not jealous, but kind of envious that was the kind of life that they were living. And I was like, two choices here. I can either keep doing what I'm doing and living a life based on the expectations of other people and the life that other people want me to live, that worked for them, or I can decide to do what I want to do. And I chose the latter. And so I just kind of dipped my toes into it to begin with. Like, obviously I was an amateur boxer and stuff, so I was like, I'll just start coaching people and taking them on pads and, running some classes. And then I started doing that, and I was like, right, I'm actually going to need some help with this, because number one, I still had a full-time job, and I started doing those classes on the side in my old boxing club. And I knew PJ was coaching people, so I was like, he can help. Like, he takes classes, and the two of us started running it. And then whenever we started sort of pairing together, the classes got even bigger. And I remember one night we showed up to a class, and there was like 40 odd people down there, and there was only like supposed to be 10 to 15 or something along those lines, but we just kind of figured it out. And I was like, oh, it actually makes more sense to have someone with me while I'm doing this here, rather than trying to do it alone. And then I suppose that our relationship just materialized from there. And then we outgrew the boxing gym, because we were limited to, you can only have it at this time on this day. So we were like, okay, fine. So then I was like, well, we've two options here. We can either go and rent space in a commercial gym or do X, Y, and Z. And we didn't really have the funds for that at the time. And then there was a space above my father's pub. But again, the only problem was we didn't really have the resources. We didn't have the funds. We didn't have nothing. So we then just knocked down a few stud walls by ourselves. Started training people in it, got friends in to help us build out the facility. Like, we had this like dodgy squat rack built by my mate. We had a dodgy pull-up bars, again built by friends. Friends come in and kitted out the place for us. And then we started to grow from there. But again, it was far from optimal, because our clients had to walk through a public bar, past all of the smokers and all of the old men stinking of piss, up through a kitchen, a restaurant, and then finally into our facility. Now, again, you can imagine from a customer experience standpoint that it wasn't optimal, but what we did have was an amazing culture. That's something that me and PJ just built, and we didn't actually know it at the time. Like, we didn't know it was what we were doing, but it just was. And still today, people talk about that old facility, and they're like, I really love that old facility. Like, that place was amazing. And I'm like, yeah, it was, but like, let's get real here. It was far from optimal. So we stayed there for a couple of years, and then we actually got shut down, or partially shut down. So the council came in one day, and they were like, they said this is not fit for a gym, and on top of that, you haven't changed the usage to a gym. And I tried to convince him that it was there for private use, and he was like, no, it's not. So then we actually went and applied for change of use, which we got, but then just due to structural issues and stuff, then it just didn't play out. But it served us at the time. And then we expanded into a second facility, which was probably one of the biggest lessons that I'll ever take away from business, because we signed a lease for a couple of years. We had no idea, we didn't do our due diligence. We didn't know what was going on. We invested quite a bit of money, the money that we had built up over the couple of years of working in our first facility, which basically cost us next to nothing. And we invested all that money into this second location, and the landlord says, oh, we'll do a couple of years and then we'll look at an extension onto it. And we were like, I trusted the guy, and I was like, okay, well, he knows what he's talking about, whatever. Didn't get solicitors involved or anything because I had known this guy. And then around about 6 months into our, might have been a bit longer, maybe closer to a year, I would say, of our first year in there, the estate agent walked in and I was taking a session, and the estate agent handed me an eviction notice, and I was like, what's going on here? So I opened the letter, and bear in mind, I was still trying to be present while taking the session, and she just kind of walked out. And then the deeper we dug into it, so there was a whole big scandal going on in Belfast with a lot of property, and our property just so happened to be involved in it, and then it was going to get demolished, and the eviction notice was for the very end of our contract in that facility. So we had gone and spent all of this money to kit out this location, and now we were going to have to shift within a couple of years of being there. We were expecting to be there for longer, which, see, to be fair, again, it was a blessing in disguise, because it then forced me to look at other options straight away. And then we actually ended up outstaying our welcome there, right up until the point where they were like, look, if you don't leave in the next couple of days, all of your equipment is going to be bulldozed. And there was some things that we had left behind that we couldn't actually take out of it that did get demolished with the building, but we had to act fast in order to go and find our third location, which we're in now. And all of this happened over a period of, I would say, like 6 to 7 years. All of this kind of went down, and we didn't really see much traction in the second business, which didn't really warrant the upgrade, the extension of the facility. So we were like, right, well, look, we've got a couple of options here. Now, I think one of the main things about myself and PJ is that even whenever we didn't have the resources to be investing in our education and investing in the business, we were still resourceful to the point where we were like, let's just keep on it. Any money whatsoever we get, we'll invest it in ourselves and we'll invest it in the business. And we always done that. We were always buying assets and always investing in assets, as in ourselves. So what we did do over that period of 5 to 7 years is that we invested a lot of capital into our education. And again, no disrespect to the rest of the industry at the time, but we were then light years ahead because we were constantly doing that. We were constantly going to courses. We were constantly going to workshops. And then, of course, myself and PJ, between the two of us, we were able to then start sort of transferring that education to other people, and we were getting other trainers that were coming to us for training. So we were like, well, this makes a lot of sense. Why don't we just keep educating the industry? It seems like it's the next step in the process. So if we combine educating other trainers with our work that we're doing with general population, that will then, I suppose, support our next growth in business. And that was the case, albeit it was a very tough, extremely tough and challenging time, because we had taken on the expansion into a new facility, and then we had taken on a franchise for an academy, and then of course trying to grow those two things simultaneously was probably one of the biggest challenges I've ever faced in my life, but one that I'm actually really grateful for, because pretty much anything that I come across now in my business life, I don't remember anything actually being as tough and as challenging as that. And who knows what might happen in the future, but that was one of the major obstacles that we were dealing with. And that's when the academy came about. And again, that came with its challenges as well. I had one person on my first PT course. The other 4 people were our coaches. So yeah, that was a big learning lesson. And again, I'll say to people now today, all you need is one person, and just make that their experience unbelievable, and that's exactly what we did. And that guy left our course and told other people about it. Doing that also, it gave myself an opportunity to dip my toes into the teaching world for real, and it gave us enough social proof so that in future we were like, oh hey, we do this thing, and then other people got on board with that. The next course there was like 4 or 5 people on it. They then told other people, so that kept on multiplying. That kept, word of mouth kept compounding, and then next thing you know, and again I suppose the other factor in that as well was that because myself and PJ were constantly going to these places and connecting with a lot of other trainers and building up relationships with a lot of other gyms, whenever we did pull the trigger to say, look, we're going to do this academy and it's going to be much better than either you or any of your trainers or potential trainers will have ever experienced, people trusted us enough to start sending people our way, start sending students our way. So that was a huge factor in that. I think like one of the first workshops that we done for the academy, there was like 20 odd other trainers showed up from Belfast alone. So that's how much trust we had built up with people over the last few years of, sharing knowledge and workshops and different things. So that was basically the start of the process with the academy. Then over, I would say the next 3 to 5 years, we didn't do anything new. We just tried to do more and better of what we were currently doing. We were just constantly trying to reinvest in the gym, buy assets for the gym, make the service better, make the course better, give our students the best opportunities possible, even leaving the course, while on the course. And then from there was what we generally seen was a huge demand from our students after they left us, because they were coming back to us, and a lot of them just become stuck because they don't know the first steps to take. And then obviously we had been in the game for 8 or 9 years at that point, so we kind of had been through the startup process actually 3 times over. Technically I had opened 3 gyms at that time, and then I was getting people who were coming back to me and saying, I want to open a gym, but I don't know where to start, or I want to grow my business further, but I don't know what the next step is. And then the next logical step for me then was to say, okay, well, I can help you solve this problem. I've got a mastermind and a mentor, other coaches at the minute. So then we had gone about adding this new expansion to the business, albeit there was synergy still between the 3, because the gym feeds nicely into the academy, and the academy feeds nicely into the mastermind, and obviously it's all based around fitness. So it's where our expertise lie, if we want to say that. So there wasn't a massive amount of effort in the transitions. It was kind of seamless. And then we had been doing that for a couple of years, and I then decided to do 2 things, another 2 expansions on that, which was the franchise of the whole business model, which again, there was synergy, it made sense to do. The transition was pretty seamless, and I had built up enough trust with some of our past students who lived in different places in order to go to them and say, would you like to do what we do? I can show you how, and we can both carry this business together in different locations. And then running events was something that myself and PJ had always kind of delved into, albeit not as big as the ECA Summit that we run today, but we had always kind of run like mini events, workshops, business things, training events, nutrition workshops. We had been doing that forever, and I kind of wanted to take that up another few notches, which kind of led to the ECA Summit as well. And that's largely where the business exists today. 14 years after starting classes in my old boxing gym.
I asked you this question before, but what's the next step for you?
What's the next step?
Yeah, for the business. Business.
The next step is do what we're doing better, then do it more, and then later down the line decide if we want to add anything new, which I don't foresee happening anytime soon. And I suppose the reason for that is because I love the existing business as it is. Like, I love everything that we do. I love the people that we work with. And I feel, I suppose, content in the fact that we can serve and fulfill our purpose with what we're doing currently. You know, we can serve as much people as I want to serve, and we can fulfill our purpose with all of the arms of the business currently, and we can get that message and that service into, you know, 1 million people's hands. And therefore I don't feel the need to do anything new. I just want to do it better and do it more.